She's clearly a sex addict, and I'm not a fan of controlling women's reproduction. Okay, so I understand, like, she didn't want the IUD. I know that was a controversial conversation. I'm not saying I have the answers, but there needs to be a conversation around a woman in particular who is a sex addict. And like, how do you keep her from constantly being in a situation where, I mean, she's admitting in her book that she had an abortion with Justin. She's got 2 kids with Kevin, but it seems like the way that she's talking, she's literally like humping everything and is just so obsessed with having sex all the time. And when you have a woman who is using drugs, she's not in a great mental state. At what point do you step in and say, okay, we can't risk her constantly getting pregnant all the time? I know that's a very controversial conversation. I'm not saying I have the answers, but Britney clearly is a sex addict. I mean, I think she's got other addictions, but sex is obviously, like, overwhelmingly one of her addictions. Again, I don't think that you can walk away from like watching her show Chaotic and reading her book alone. Again, so just like the TV show with her home movies and her words, she clearly had a sex addiction. And again, like I said, I'm not a fan of controlling women's reproduction, you know, like forcing her to be on a birth control she didn't want to be on. But I do think that there needs to be some conversations around how you handle, you know, women with sex addiction, but also women with severe mental health problems that, you know, don't necessarily know how to prevent pregnancy. You know, are they able to consent to a pregnancy? Or, you know, it seems like Britney tries to get pregnant on a whim. I think she even arguably got pregnant on a whim with Kevin Federline. With her erratic behavior, I'm not saying that her family putting her on an IUD was the right decision. I don't know if it was or not, but I can understand where they would feel like there had to be some kind of birth control set up in place because of the situation and the way that it was. Probably a controversial statement, but, and again, I don't have all the answers.